Welcome, my friend. I am so glad you are here today. This is not just a lesson in English, it is also a lesson in life. As you listen, read, and repeat the words, you will practice English. But more than that, you will hear a story that may touch your heart because it is about struggle, hope, and the secret of turning pain into power. Let us begin with a picture. Imagine a young girl. She is small, quiet, and often alone. She walks through the world with her head down, as if her eyes cannot meet the light. Around her, other children laugh, play, and run. Their voices are full of joy, but her world feels heavy. She feels different, like a shadow that no one sees. She feels broken, weak, and forgotten. Have you ever felt like that? Have you ever felt that your life was too hard, too heavy, and too dark? Maybe you failed at school. Maybe you lost a friend. Maybe your family did not understand you. Maybe you tried again and again, but nothing seemed to change. Pain can come in many forms: loneliness, fear, hunger, or shame. And when pain comes, it can make us feel small, empty, and powerless. This girl knows that feeling very well. Every morning, she wakes with tired eyes. She looks in the mirror, but she does not like what she sees. She feels weak inside. She tells herself, "I am not good enough. I will never change. I will always be this way." Her heart feels like a closed box, locked tight with sadness. But here is the question: must pain always win? Must it always break us, silence us, and leave us empty? Or can pain become something else? Can pain, something so heavy, become the very thing that gives us strength? This is the heart of our story. Pain is not only an enemy. Pain can also be a teacher. It can be the fire that shapes us, the storm that makes our roots grow deeper, the test that makes us stronger. Yet many people never learn this secret. They run from pain. They hide from it. They believe pain is the end. But what if pain is not the end? What if pain is the beginning? Think of a seed. At first, it is buried in the dark earth. It cannot see the sun. It is small and alone. But slowly, the seed begins to push through the soil. The darkness does not stop it. In fact, the darkness helps it grow. The seed breaks open, and from that breaking, new life appears. The seed's pain becomes its power. The girl in our story has not yet learned this. Right now, she feels only the dark. She feels only the breaking. But her journey is not finished. Something inside her still whispers, "There must be more than this." That whisper is small, but it is real, and one day it will grow louder. For you, the listener and learner, this story is not only about her, it is also about you. Just as she feels broken, maybe you have also felt broken. Just as she feels weak, maybe you have also felt weak. And just as she feels forgotten, maybe you have also felt forgotten. But here is the truth: you are not alone, and you are not powerless. As you practice English with this story, remember that learning itself is a kind of power. Every new word you understand is like a small victory. Every new sentence you speak is like a seed breaking through the soil. It may feel slow, it may feel hard, but just as the girl will learn, you too can turn your own struggles into strength. Life gives us two choices: stay in the pain or use the pain to rise. Stay in the darkness or look for the light. The girl has not made her choice yet, but soon she will. And her choice will change everything. So listen carefully. Read slowly. Let the words enter your mind and heart. This story is here to teach you English, yes, but it is also here to teach you courage. Because the question is not only about her. The question is also about you. How will you face your pain? Will you let it break you, or will you let it build you? The girl feels the weight of her sadness. She feels like she cannot carry it anymore. But somewhere inside, she begins to wonder, is it possible? Can my pain become my power? And so, her journey begins. But to understand her strength, we must first understand her childhood of tears. Chapter 1. A Childhood of Tears. Welcome back, my friend. In the last part, we began the story of a girl who felt broken, weak, and forgotten. Now, let us go deeper. Let us walk with her into the first chapters of her life, into her childhood of tears. As you listen and read, you will not only practice English, but you will also see how pain often begins early in life. Yet, as we will learn, pain does not need to decide the whole future. The girl was born in a small village. The houses were simple, made of wood and stone. The streets were narrow, filled with dust in the summer and mud in the rainy season. For many children, this place was still full of laughter. They played games in the road, chasing each other, their voices ringing like bells in the air. But for this girl, the sound of laughter was like a reminder of something she could not reach. She stood at the edge of the games, watching, silent, invisible. Her family was poor. Every morning, her mother worked from sunrise to sunset, trying to earn enough to buy food. Her father was often away, searching for jobs that never seemed to last. At home, the small room was crowded, but it felt empty to her heart. There were no books to read, no toys to play with, no extra clothes to wear. Sometimes she wore the same dress for many days, and the other children noticed. They pointed, they whispered, and she lowered her head, wishing she could disappear. She longed for simple joys. She wanted to run freely, to laugh loudly, to feel like she belonged. But instead, she felt like a stranger in her own life. While others smiled, she often sat alone in the corner, her eyes filling with tears. Her heart asked a silent question. Why not me? Why can't I be happy like them? At school, the pain grew deeper. The teacher asked questions, and the children raised their hands with excitement. But she was afraid to speak. Her voice shook. Sometimes the words did not come out right. The other students laughed, and the teacher moved on quickly. Each time her confidence grew smaller. She thought, I must be stupid. I must not be good enough. These words, repeated inside her, became like heavy stones in her mind. And yet, inside her, there was a small spark. She wanted to learn. She wanted to shine. She wanted to prove that she could be more than the poor, quiet girl in the back of the room. But the spark was hidden under many layers of fear, shame, and loneliness. Life of joy, life of pain. That was the contrast she saw every day. She saw children with warm clothes, new books, and strong voices. She compared herself to them and felt smaller and smaller. She imagined what it would be like to have a different life, a life where she could laugh without fear, where she could walk with pride. But when she opened her eyes, she returned to the same reality. Empty hands, tired parents, and a heart full of silence. Still, even in her sadness, she noticed something. Sometimes when she cried alone, she felt a strange strength in her tears. She realized that crying did not break her completely. After the tears, she could still stand. After the sadness, she could still walk. And after each hard day, she still woke up and faced the world again. She did not yet understand it, but this was the beginning of her power. Her childhood was filled with misunderstandings too. People in the village often judged her. They said she was weak, shy, or lazy. They did not see her heart. They did not see her silent dreams. They only saw the outside, the quiet girl with no voice. Their words cut her deeply, like sharp knives, but deep inside, a quiet voice whispered back, "They do not know me." One day I will show them this is how pain often begins, early, quietly, and unfairly. It may come from poverty. It may come from loneliness. It may come from being misunderstood. For this girl, it came from all of these. And yet, the truth is clear. Pain in childhood does not have to decide the future. Pain can be the beginning of a new story, not the end. The girl did not know it yet, but her pain was shaping her. Each tear was teaching her compassion. Each failure was teaching her patience. Each lonely day was teaching her strength. Her childhood of tears was also her classroom of life. One evening, she sat outside, looking at the sky. The stars were far away, but they shone bright. She wondered if her life could shine like that one day. She whispered, almost too soft to hear, "I want to change. I don't want to stay this way." That whisper was the seed of a new journey. She was still small. She was still weak. She was still full of pain. But for the first time, she began to search for a way forward. Her story was not finished. In fact, it was only beginning. The tears of childhood had shaped her heart, but they had not broken it. Now she would begin to carry her pain into her teenage years, where the weight would grow heavier, but also where her first steps toward change would begin. Chapter 2. The Heavy Weight of Pain. Welcome again, my friend. In the last part of our story, we saw the girl's early years, her poverty, her loneliness, her tears. Childhood gave her pain, but it also gave her a small seed of strength. Now, we move into her teenage years, a time that should be full of dreams and discovery. But for her, the weight of pain only grew heavier. And yet, it is in this weight that she begins to ask the first important question: can my pain become something more? When she entered her teenage years, life did not suddenly become brighter. In fact, many days felt darker. At school, lessons grew harder, and the voices around her grew louder. Teachers expected more, classmates competed more, and mistakes carried heavier shame. She tried to keep up, but often she fell behind. Each test was a battle. Each grade felt like a mirror showing her failure. She studied at night, her small lamp burning long after her mother had gone to sleep. She repeated words again and again, but when the exam paper came, her mind went blank. Her hands shook, her chest tightened. When she received her marks, they were low, and once again she felt the sharp sting of disappointment. Around her, other students celebrated their success, while she held her paper close, hiding the red marks that shouted failure. Her classmates noticed. Some whispered behind her back. Others laughed openly. One boy said, "She will never be anything." Those words cut her deeply. They replayed in her mind like a broken song. Never be anything. Never be anything. She tried to act like she did not care, but inside, her heart bled silently. At the same time, she longed for friendship. She wanted to belong, to share secrets, to laugh with others. But often, when she tried, she felt rejected. Sometimes the other girls ignored her. Sometimes they pretended to listen but then turned away. Once, she trusted a girl with her secret dreams, only to hear those dreams mocked by others the next day. That betrayal burned like fire in her chest. It taught her to hide more, to close her heart, to trust less. So she carried her pain silently, On the outside, she wore a quiet face. On the inside, her thoughts were heavy, pressing down on her spirit. She smiled less. She spoke less. She lived each day like she was walking through water, slow, heavy, and unseen. And yet, here lies the contrast. Carrying pain in silence does not make it disappear. It only makes it grow. Her silence turned into loneliness. Her loneliness turned into hopelessness, and her hopelessness began to whisper lies. This is all you are. This is all you will ever be. But here is the truth. Hiding pain is not the same as healing it. Imagine carrying a bag of stones every day. At first, it feels possible. But as days and years pass, the weight grows heavier, and soon your back bends, your steps slow, and your hope fades. That was her life, walking each day with an invisible bag of stones pressing down on her heart. One evening, after another long and painful day at school, she sat alone in her room. She looked at her books and her worn notebook. Tears filled her eyes. She whispered, "Why is life so hard for me? Why can't I be like the others?" She pressed her face into her hands and cried quietly so no one would hear. She cried not only for the day, but for the many days behind her, and for the many days she feared were still to come. And yet, after the tears, something surprising happened. She lifted her head and looked at her reflection in the small, cracked mirror on her wall. Her eyes were red, her face was tired, but deep inside, she saw something else. She saw a question forming, not a cry of despair, but a question of hope. Is there another way? Can this pain become something else? Can it be more than just suffering? This question did not erase her pain. The weight was still there. But the moment she asked it, a small crack appeared in the wall of her hopelessness. The crack let in a tiny ray of light. For the first time, she began to think that maybe pain did not have to be her enemy. Maybe pain could be something different. She did not yet know the answer. She did not yet know how to change. But the act of asking the question was already a step forward, because facing pain begins with honesty. When we admit, "I am hurting, I am carrying too much," we open the door to healing. Her teenage years were not easy. They were filled with failure at school, rejection from friends, betrayal of trust, and heavy silence. But inside all of that darkness, a new thought was born. She began to see that perhaps she could learn from her pain instead of running from it. And so, my friend, this part of her story teaches us an important lesson. Pain grows if we hide it, but when we face it, we begin to change it. Just as a wound heals when we clean it and care for it, the heart heals when we bring pain into the light. The girl was still far from healing. She still walked with heavy steps. She still felt the weight of her tears. But the seed of transformation was planted. And that seed was the question she whispered to herself in the quiet of her room. Can I turn this pain into something else? That question would lead her forward. It would guide her into the turning point of her life where she would discover that pain, though heavy, can become the very source of power. Chapter 3. The Turning Point. Welcome back, my friend. In the last part of our story, we walked through the girl's teenage years. We saw how her pain grew heavier with failure, rejection, and silence. We saw how her pain grew heavier with failure, rejection, and silence. We saw her cry quietly, alone in her room. And yet we also saw something new, the small, powerful question in her heart. Can I turn this pain into something else? Today, we step into the turning point, the moment when her life begins to change. It started on an ordinary day, A day that looked like all the others. The sky was gray, the classroom was noisy, and she felt invisible in her usual seat at the back. But on this day, something unexpected happened. A teacher, who usually walked quickly past her, stopped for a moment. He looked at her, really looked, and said, "You are quiet, but I believe you can do more." At first, she did not know how to answer. She wanted to shake her head and say, "No, not me," but the words stayed with her. "I believe you can do more." That simple sentence was like a seed falling into her heart. It was small, but it carried power. Later that week, she went to the small library near her school. It was not big, but it held rows of books, waiting quietly. She walked between the shelves, touching the spines of books as if they were doors to another world. One book caught her eye. Its cover was plain, but its title spoke to her. Strength Through Struggle. She pulled it out, sat by the window, and began to read. The book told stories of people who faced great pain, but did not let it destroy them. One story was about a man who lost everything in a fire but rebuilt his life from nothing. Another was about a woman who was laughed at for years, but later became a leader. Each page was like a light shining into her darkness. The book whispered the same message again and again. Pain is not only an enemy, pain can be a teacher. She closed the book slowly, holding it against her chest. Her eyes filled with tears, but these tears felt different. They were not tears of despair. They were tears of recognition. For the first time, she saw her pain in a new way. She thought, maybe my pain is not here to break me. Maybe my pain is here to teach me. Maybe every struggle carries a lesson if I am willing to look. This was the turning point. Before, she had lived as a victim. She believed life was happening to her, that she had no control, that she was simply broken. But now, a new thought entered her heart. She could choose to become a student of life. She could choose to learn from her struggles instead of letting them crush her. The contrast was clear. Victimhood says, life is unfair and I am helpless. But learning says, life is hard, but every pain has a lesson. Victimhood keeps us in chains. Learning gives us keys to freedom. That evening, she sat again in her small room. The cracked mirror was still on the wall. The books were still old and worn. Nothing outside had changed, but inside, everything felt different. She whispered to herself, I will not only cry, I will not only carry this weight, I will learn, I will grow, I will turn this pain into fuel. From that day, she began to listen differently. When someone rejected her, she asked, what can I learn from this? Can I become stronger in myself? When she failed at a test, she asked, what can I do better next time? When loneliness pressed against her heart, she asked, how can I use this time to know myself more? Of course, she was still young. She still made mistakes. She still cried many nights. But the difference was this. She no longer believed pain had the final word. She believed pain had something to teach her, and she was ready to listen. This change of mind was not loud or dramatic. No one clapped. No one noticed right away. But inside her, a fire had been lit. And even the smallest fire can burn away a great deal of darkness. She began to write her thoughts in a notebook. At first, the words were simple. Today I was sad, but I learned I must try again. Today I failed, but I saw that failure does not mean the end. Slowly, her notebook filled with small lessons. Each lesson was like a stone, and together they began to build a path forward. She also remembered her teacher's words. I believe you can do more. Those words became a quiet echo in her mind whenever she felt weak. They reminded her that even if she did not yet believe in herself, someone else had seen something in her. And sometimes, just one voice of belief is enough to wake our own belief. The turning point did not erase her pain. The challenges were still there. The rejection was still there. The failures were still there. But now, she saw them differently. They were not chains. They were lessons. They were not only wounds, they were teachers. And so, my friend, here lies the great truth for us as learners, as humans. Every struggle carries a lesson if we are willing to look. Pain can break us, or pain can build us. The difference is not in the pain itself, but in how we choose to face it. The girl chose to face it as a student, not as a victim. She decided to let her tears water the soil of her future. She decided to let her scars become her teachers. She decided to let her pain become her fuel. Her journey was still long. The road was still hard. But now, she had taken the most important step, the decision to change her view of pain. And this decision was the beginning of her power. With this new way of thinking, she began to take small actions. She studied a little harder. She walked a little taller. She tried one more time when she wanted to give up. These steps were not yet strong, but they were real. Each one showed that she was no longer a prisoner of her past. She was moving, slowly but surely, toward her future. And so, we leave her here, standing at the door of a new life. She is not yet strong, but she is no longer the same. She has found the turning point. She has decided to use her pain as fuel. In the next part of her journey, we will see how she begins with small steps, building strong roots that will hold her when storms come. Chapter 4. Small Steps, Strong Roots. Welcome back, my friend. In the last part of the story, we saw the girl reach her turning point. She discovered something new. Pain was not only an enemy, but also a teacher. This realization did not make her life easy, but it gave her a new way to live. Now, in this part of her journey, we will see how she begins to grow, not through big changes all at once, but through small steps that slowly build strong roots for her future. At first, she did not know where to begin. She still felt weak, and the voices of doubt were loud in her mind. "You are not enough," they whispered. "You will never change." For many days, she wondered if it was even possible to become stronger. But then she remembered the book she had read in the library, Strength Through Struggle. One line from the book echoed in her heart. Power is not built in a day. Power is built step by step. So, she decided to start small. She picked up her notebook, the one where she had begun writing her thoughts, and made a simple goal. Read for 15 minutes every evening. Just 15 minutes. It was not much, but it was something she could do. At first, it felt too small. She wondered if such a little action could matter. But with each day, she began to notice something. The stories she read gave her new ideas. The words she wrote down helped her see patterns in her thinking. Slowly, almost quietly, her mind began to change. She also decided to practice one new skill each week. Sometimes it was a school subject, like solving math problems. Other times, it was something simple, like cooking a meal for her family or practicing speaking in front of a mirror. These actions were not perfect. Often she stumbled. Sometimes the food burned. Sometimes she felt embarrassed by her own reflection. But every attempt was like planting another seed in her garden of growth. The contrast was clear. She wanted quick success. She wanted her life to change overnight. Many times she felt impatient, thinking, "Why is this taking so long? Why can't I be strong already? But she began to see that rushing only led to frustration. Growth, like a tree, needs time. A tree cannot grow tall in one day. First, its roots must grow deep into the ground, finding strength and stability. Without strong roots, a tree will fall with the first storm. And so, she told herself, I am building my roots. Every small step is making me stronger. Inside her family did not always notice the changes at first. To them, she still looked like the quiet girl in the corner. But inside, she felt something new. She felt determination. She felt the power of persistence. When she read, her imagination grew. When she practiced, her courage grew. When she worked hard, her confidence grew. These changes were slow, but they were real. One evening, after a long day at school, she felt tired. She wanted to skip her reading. It's just one day, she thought. But then she remembered her promise to herself. She opened the book, even though her eyes were heavy, and read for a few minutes. That small choice made her proud. It showed her that discipline is not about big victories. Discipline is about doing the small things, even when you don't feel like it. The notebook began to fill with lessons from these daily choices. She wrote lines like, "Even small steps move me forward." Roots grow underground where no one can see, but one day they will show their strength. I am learning to be patient with myself. These words became her reminders on difficult days. One day she overheard two classmates laughing at her. "She's so slow," one of them said. "She will never catch up." For a moment, the old pain returned. Her face grew hot, and her heart sank. But then she remembered the image of the tree. She thought, "They see only the surface. They do not see my roots. One day, the roots I build will hold me strong, even when storms come." With that thought, she held her head a little higher and walked away. The lesson was clear. True strength is built in silence. It is built when no one is watching. It is built in the small choices that seem invisible, but carry great power over time. She also began to believe in herself, little by little. At first it felt strange, almost unnatural. For so long she had believed the opposite, that she was weak, unworthy, and forgotten. But each small success whispered a different truth. When she finished a book, she felt proud. When she solved a difficult problem, she smiled to herself. When she spoke a sentence clearly in front of the mirror, she felt courage growing. It was not easy. There were days when progress felt invisible. There were times when she cried, thinking she was moving too slowly. But then she reminded herself of another truth. Fast growth is not always strong growth. Quick success can fall apart easily, but slow growth builds roots that last. And so, she continued, step by step, day by day, choice by choice. Slowly, others began to notice the change too. Her teacher smiled when she saw her raise her hand more often in class. Her younger sibling admired how she stayed focused on her work. Even her parents, though tired from their own struggles, saw a light of determination in her eyes. But the most important change was not what others saw. The most important change was inside. She now believed that she could grow, even if slowly. She believed that every small action mattered. She believed that roots were being built under the surface, preparing her for the storms ahead. And my friend, this is a lesson for you too. Many times we want quick success in learning, in life, in English. We want results today, not tomorrow. But true strength comes slowly. Each word you learn, each sentence you practice, each mistake you correct, these are your small steps. They may not seem powerful now, but they are building your roots. And one day, those roots will hold you strong when life becomes hard. The girl's journey was far from over. She had only begun to build her roots. But already, her life felt different. She was no longer just surviving each day. She was planting seeds for her future. She was choosing patience. She was choosing discipline. She was choosing growth. Her progress was slow, but her direction was clear. Step by step, she was building the foundation of her strength. And as her roots grew deeper, she was preparing herself for the next lesson, the lesson of courage. Because soon, she would face new challenges, ones that required more than just patience. She would need to stand tall, even when afraid. She would need to find her voice, even when it trembled. She would need to learn the meaning of true courage. And that, my friend, is where her story will lead us next. Chapter 5. The Power of Courage. Welcome back, my friend. In the last part of our story, we saw the girl planting seeds through small steps. Her roots grew stronger each day, but roots alone are not enough. A tree must also rise above the ground, facing the wind and the sun. In the same way, the girl now needed something more than patience. She needed courage, the power to act even when she was afraid. Her first big challenge came at school. One morning, the teacher asked for a volunteer to read a passage aloud. The classroom fell silent. Students looked down at their desks, pretending to be busy. The girl felt her heart race. She wanted to hide too. Her hands were shaking, and her throat felt dry. Fear whispered, "You will make mistakes. They will laugh at you." For a moment, she almost stayed silent. But then she remembered her roots. She remembered the promise she made to herself, to grow stronger step by step. Slowly, she raised her hand. The teacher nodded and she stood up. Her voice trembled at first. A few words came out wrong. She could feel the eyes of her classmates on her, but she kept reading, one sentence, then another. When she finished, the room was quiet. Then the teacher smiled and said, "Well done." The girl sat down, her heart still pounding. But inside, she felt something new, the taste of courage. She had not been perfect, but she had faced her fear. And that, she realized, was what courage truly meant. Courage is not the end of fear. Courage is the choice to act, even when fear is present. Without fear, courage is not needed. But with fear, courage becomes the bridge to freedom. Her courage grew with each small action. One day, she decided to join a debate in class. She was terrified. The night before, she practiced in front of the mirror again and again. On the day of the debate, her voice was not the loudest. Her arguments were not the strongest. But she spoke. She stood tall. She shared her opinion. And for the first time, she felt her voice had power. The contrast was clear. Before, fear kept her silent. Fear kept her small. Fear made her believe she had no place in the world. But now, courage gave her voice. Courage gave her space. Courage gave her the chance to be seen. Still, courage was not only about speaking in public. It was also about trying again after failure. One afternoon, she joined a sports game with her classmates. She was not very good at it, and during the game, she made mistakes. She missed the ball several times. Some children laughed, and she felt her face burn. The old pain returned, whispering, "You should give up. You are not made for this." But then she remembered, failure is not the end. Failure is only a step toward learning. She took a deep breath, wiped her tears, and stayed in the game. The next time the ball came, she tried again. She still missed, but this time she smiled at herself. I will not give up, she thought. And slowly, her classmates noticed her spirit. Some even began to cheer for her. By the end of the game, she had scored one small point. It was not victory on the scoreboard, but it was a great victory inside her heart. This was another lesson in courage, not giving up after falling. Courage meant standing again, even with scraped knees and a bruised heart. Her courage also showed when she stood up for herself. One afternoon, a group of older students made fun of her clothes. For a long time, she would have stayed quiet, letting their words cut her deeply. But this time, something inside her was different. She lifted her head and said clearly, "Your words do not decide who I am." The bullies laughed and walked away, but she did not feel small. She felt free. She had spoken up for herself. That moment gave her strength she had never felt before. The lesson grew stronger each day. Courage was not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward despite it. Each time she acted with courage, she built another layer of strength. Her roots had given her stability, but her courage was now helping her rise tall like a young tree reaching toward the sky. And my friend, this lesson is also for you. How many times has fear kept you silent when you wanted to speak English? How many times has fear made you give up before trying again? How many times has fear told you, you cannot do this? But remember the girl's journey. Remember her trembling voice that still chose to read. Remember her failures that still turned into lessons. Remember her brave words to those who tried to bring her down. Courage grows through action, not waiting. If you wait for fear to disappear, you may wait forever. But if you act while still afraid, you will see courage come alive inside you. Every time you speak, even with mistakes, you grow. Every time you try again after failure, you grow. Every time you stand up for yourself, you grow. One evening, as the girl wrote in her notebook, she wrote these words: "Fear keeps me silent. Courage gives me voice. Courage is the bridge between weakness and strength. I may feel afraid, but I will act anyway." These lines became her guide. Her life was still not perfect. She still had fears just like everyone. But now she knew the truth. She was stronger than she had believed. With every act of courage, her world became bigger. With every brave choice, she opened new doors for herself. And courage did not only help her, it began to reach others too. One younger student came to her one day saying, "I'm afraid to speak in front of the class." The girl smiled and said, "I was afraid too." But courage grows when you try. She encouraged the student just as she had once needed encouragement. And that, my friend, is the power of courage. It not only changes you, it also gives you the strength to help others. This is where her journey now leads, because courage does not stop at your own life. True courage inspires, true courage shares, true courage lifts others. And so, as we move forward, we will see how her growing courage leads her to something even greater, the power of helping others. Chapter 6. From Pain to Purpose. Welcome back, my friend. In the last section, we saw the girl discover the power of courage. She faced her fears, spoke her voice, and tried again after failure. Courage allowed her to rise above fear and take action. Now, we see the next step in her journey, learning that her pain could become more than personal strength. It could become a purpose. She began to see her struggles as a way to help others. Her first lesson came quietly. One day, while walking home from school, she noticed a younger child sitting alone on the playground. The boy was crying softly, his face red and wet from tears. She remembered herself at that age, the loneliness, the shame, the heavy silence. Without thinking, she sat beside him and asked, "Are you okay?" The boy sniffled and shook his head. She stayed, quietly listening, offering no judgments, only presence. She could feel his pain, not because she had all the answers, but because she had lived through something similar. That simple act of listening made the boy feel seen. For the first time that day, he smiled, small and fragile, but real. The girl realized something important. Her pain had given her empathy. Her own struggles allowed her to understand the struggles of others. She could hear sadness where others might only see silence. She could see fear where others might only see weakness. She could offer comfort because she knew what it was like to feel alone. From that moment, she began to act more intentionally. At school, she would encourage classmates who were shy or struggling. She would share her own mistakes and lessons, not to show off, but to show that failure was part of growth. Slowly, people began to notice her kindness. Children who had once ignored her or laughed at her began to look to her as someone safe, someone who understood. Her pain, once a weight that pressed down on her heart, now became a bridge. It connected her to others. She began to see that living only for herself was lonely and small. Helping others gave her life a new meaning. She could turn the lessons of her tears into guidance, her fears into encouragement, her failures into hope for someone else. One day, a group of students was organizing a small reading club. They wanted someone to lead, someone patient and kind. To her surprise, they asked her. At first, she hesitated. What if I fail? What if I cannot help them? She thought. But then she remembered the courage she had built. She remembered the small steps that had strengthened her roots. And so, she accepted. Leading the reading club was not easy. Some students were shy, some were impatient, some did not want to read at all. But she was patient. She listened, she encouraged, she celebrated even the smallest achievements. Slowly, the students began to grow. Slowly, their confidence improved. And slowly, she saw that her own pain had given her the power to guide, to teach, and to inspire. She also began volunteering outside of school. She helped neighbors with small tasks, listened to stories from the elderly, and shared books with children who had none. She realized that by giving her time, her energy, and her empathy, she could create change far beyond herself. She saw that her suffering was not meaningless. It could create meaning for others. Contrast framing became clear in her mind. She could have lived only for herself, protecting her heart and keeping her struggles hidden. That would have been safe, quiet, and easy. But using her pain to help others made life larger, fuller, and more alive. One action, one moment of listening, one kind word could change a life. And when she saw the faces of the children she helped, she felt a joy she had never known before. The lesson became obvious. Pain turns into power when it gives meaning to life. Strength without purpose can feel empty. Knowledge without sharing can feel cold. But when pain teaches empathy, when courage inspires action, when struggles become bridges to others, then life gains meaning. Even when challenges returned, and they always did, she found she could handle them better. When classmates laughed at mistakes, she remembered how she had helped others feel accepted. When teachers criticized her, she remembered how patience and persistence had helped the children in her reading club. Her own pain, once heavy and isolating, now gave her resilience. Her story began to spread quietly. Other students noticed the changes in her. They saw her smile when helping others, her confidence when she spoke in class, her patience with those who were struggling. Some even began to emulate her kindness and courage. Slowly, she became a small light in the school, showing others that pain could be transformed into purpose. She did not stop at school. At home, she became more helpful. She assisted her parents with chores, shared her thoughts about solving family problems, and offered comfort when her siblings felt sad or scared. She realized that her actions, no matter how small, could make the lives of people around her brighter. And through all of this, she remembered the lessons of courage and roots. Growth takes time. Courage is action despite fear. Pain can be a teacher. And now, pain can also be a bridge, a way to create meaning and inspire others. One evening, she wrote in her notebook, "Pain taught me to understand. Pain taught me to listen. Pain taught me to help. Pain gave me purpose." Her heart felt lighter and fuller than ever before. She had discovered something powerful. She could use her own experiences, even the hardest ones, to make the world a little better. She felt the beauty of transformation, the power of taking struggles and turning them into meaning. And yet, her journey was not finished. Life would still test her. Difficulties would still come. But now, she had a deeper understanding. She was not powerless. She was not alone, and her past pain could be a tool, not a chain. As her story reached others, she began to inspire more than just her classmates and family. Her courage and purpose became an example. But with this recognition came new challenges. People expected more from her. Some doubted her motives, and some tried to test her strength in ways she had never faced before. Her journey, my friend, was far from over. Using pain to help others gave her life meaning, but it also showed her that growth and purpose require continuous effort. Even the strongest bridges need maintenance, and even the most meaningful work demands patience, persistence, and heart. In the next part of her story, we will see how she faces new challenges while continuing to inspire others. We will see how her courage and purpose are tested in ways that push her further than ever before, and we will see how she continues to turn pain into power, step by step, choice by choice, day by day. Chapter 7. The Tests of Life. Welcome back, my friend. In the last section, we saw how the girl began to turn her pain into purpose. She helped others, shared her strength, and discovered meaning in her struggles. But life, as it often does, was not finished testing her. Even the strongest roots must face storms, and even the bravest hearts must face challenges. Now, we will see how she navigates the tests of life, and how her past lessons help her rise higher than ever before. The first test came in school once again. A new teacher arrived, strict and demanding. She expected perfection, and even small mistakes were noticed. The girl's grades, which had slowly been improving, suddenly dropped. For the first time in months, the familiar weight of doubt pressed heavily on her chest. Her old thoughts returned like shadows. "You are not good enough. You will never succeed." In the past, these words would have made her cry and hide. She would have thrown her books aside and waited for the pain to pass. But now, she reacted differently. She remembered her roots, her courage, and her purpose. She took a deep breath and wrote in her notebook, "This is a challenge. I can learn from it. I will not give up." That small act of writing became a shield against despair. She began to work differently. She asked questions in class, even when her voice trembled. She studied more carefully, reviewing the lessons she had missed. When she failed a test, she analyzed her mistakes instead of blaming herself. Slowly, the grades began to rise again. The process was not easy, and she stumbled many times. But each stumble was now a lesson, not a defeat. Life tested her in other ways, too. At home, her family faced financial difficulties. Her parents argued more often, and she sometimes felt helpless watching them struggle. In the past, this would have made her retreat further into sadness. But now, she looked for solutions. She helped where she could, preparing meals, managing small tasks, and supporting her younger siblings. By acting instead of giving up, she felt a small but powerful sense of control over her life. Friendships were also tested. A close friend betrayed her trust, sharing something personal she had confided in private. At first, the hurt felt deep, like a wound opening again. But she remembered her lessons in courage and purpose. Instead of retreating, she confronted the situation calmly. She expressed her feelings and set boundaries without anger. The friend apologized, and although their relationship took time to heal, the girl realized she had grown stronger in handling betrayal. The contrast between her old reactions and new reactions was clear. Before, a setback would make her cry, withdraw, or believe she was powerless. Now, she faced setbacks with courage, reflection, and action. She still felt pain, fear, and disappointment, but she no longer let those feelings control her. Pain was no longer the master, it was now a teacher and guide. One particularly hard test came in the form of a school competition. She had worked hard, but the judges overlooked her work. Her heart sank, and the familiar sting of rejection threatened to overwhelm her. For a moment, she closed her eyes and felt the weight of all her past struggles. But then she remembered something important. She had faced failure before. She had stood again, learned from her mistakes, and grown stronger. This was no different. Instead of giving up, she analyzed the feedback carefully. She practiced more, prepared a new presentation, and spoke again the next day. This time, her performance was confident, clear, and strong. She did not win first place, but the judges praised her courage, her improvement, and her persistence. And more importantly, she felt proud of herself, because she had faced the challenge head-on. Through all these tests, she discovered an important truth. Life will always bring struggles. Pain does not disappear completely. But how we respond to it makes all the difference. She learned that setbacks are not the end. They are opportunities to rise. Pain may return, but now she knew how to stand tall, even when it pressed down heavily on her heart. Her growing resilience also inspired others. Classmates who had once doubted her now admired her calm, determined spirit. Younger students sought her advice, and even her teachers noticed her steady progress. She had become someone who could face challenges without breaking, and that example encouraged others to try harder, to believe more, and to act despite fear. Even small daily challenges reinforced her strength. She faced cold mornings, long walks home, and difficult homework, but she no longer saw them as insurmountable. Each action, no matter how small, became proof that she could handle life's tests. She began to view challenges as a training ground for her character, a place where courage, patience, and persistence were strengthened. The contrast in her life was remarkable. Once, she had been a girl defined by tears, fear, and silence. Now, she was defined by courage, reflection, and action. She still felt sadness and faced difficulties, but her new perspective made her feel empowered. She realized that strength is not the absence of struggle. It is the ability to rise again and again, no matter how many times life knocks you down. Through these tests, she also learned empathy and humility. She understood that everyone faces struggles, even if they are hidden. She began to offer encouragement to others who were failing or afraid. Her past pain allowed her to recognize the struggles in others, and her courage allowed her to act as a guide. She discovered that rising through challenges is not only about personal growth, it is about lifting others along the way. And so her journey through life's tests was not just about surviving, it was about learning, growing, and inspiring. She had become stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. Every setback became a stepping stone, every doubt became a lesson, and every challenge became an opportunity to rise. My friend, this teaches us a powerful truth. Life will always test you. You will face fear, failure, and disappointment. But with roots built from small steps, courage to act despite fear, and purpose born from your struggles, you can rise. You can face life's tests with strength, and in doing so, you become someone who inspires others too. As she faced each test, she realized that she was no longer just surviving. She was learning to thrive. She was no longer defined by past pain. She was defined by the choices she made, the courage she showed, and the purpose she carried in her heart. Her journey through challenges prepared her for the next step, becoming a leader. Not just a survivor, but someone who could guide, inspire, and uplift others. And in the next section, we will see how she steps fully into this role, using all she has learned to shine brightly for herself and those around her. Chapter 8. Teaching Others. What she learned. Welcome back, my friend. In the last section, we saw the girl rise through life's tests. She had grown stronger, braver, and wiser. Now, her journey takes a new turn. Her growth is no longer just for herself. She begins to share her lessons with others, showing them how to turn pain into power. This is the moment where she becomes not just a survivor, but a guide. It started in small ways. A younger student, struggling with reading, came to her one afternoon. The child's eyes were full of worry and self-doubt. The girl remembered herself at that age, lost, quiet, and afraid. She smiled gently and said, "I understand how you feel. Let me show you a way." She sat beside the student, reading slowly, explaining the words, and encouraging him when he stumbled. Step by step, the child began to gain confidence. This small act sparked something inside her. She realized that her own struggles, once heavy and lonely, could become tools to help others. Her past pain gave her insight. Her courage gave her confidence, and her patience gave others a safe space to learn. At school, she began to speak more often in front of groups. Sometimes she told stories of her failures and what she had learned from them. Other times, she shared strategies for facing fear, building courage, or finding purpose in small steps. Children listened, rapt with attention. They saw someone who had been afraid, lonely, and lost, and now they saw someone strong, kind, and inspiring. The contrast was clear. She could have kept her wisdom to herself, holding it like a secret treasure. That would have been safe and easy. But instead, she chose to give it away. Each time she shared a lesson, she felt her own power grow. She discovered that true strength is not measured by what you keep, but by what you give. Her teaching went beyond words. She led small groups, helping others practice reading, write their thoughts, or face fears in small exercises. She celebrated every success, no matter how small, and encouraged perseverance after every failure. Through these actions, she built a community of learners, each supporting one another and growing together. She also began to mentor students who had once been her classmates. Some were struggling with school, others with personal problems, and some just needed someone to listen. She remembered how much a simple act of attention had helped her, and she offered that same attention freely. Listening became her greatest tool. By showing empathy and understanding, she helped others see that they were not alone in their struggles. One day, a group of students approached her with a problem. They had a project to complete, but felt overwhelmed and unsure where to start. The girl guided them patiently, breaking the task into small, manageable steps. She reminded them to take it one step at a time, just as she had learned to do with her own growth. Slowly, they began to work together, encouraged by her calm presence. By the end, the project was completed, and more importantly, the students felt capable and confident. Her influence continued to grow. Teachers noticed her leadership and invited her to help organize school activities. Parents saw her kindness and reliability. But the most meaningful moments were the small ones. The smiles of students who finally understood a lesson, the quiet thank you notes from children who felt seen, the shy voices that now spoke up because she had shown them courage. The lesson became clear. Sharing her wisdom did not diminish her power. It multiplied it. Her own strength grew with every student she guided, every friend she encouraged, and every small act of teaching. Pain, courage, and purpose had combined to create something even greater: the ability to lift others while continuing to grow herself. And my friend, this teaches us an important truth for life and learning. Knowledge, courage, and experience are powerful, but they become transformative when shared. Holding on to wisdom only benefits ourselves. Giving it away empowers both others and us. True power is measured by the lives we touch, not the secrets we keep. Her journey also showed that teaching is a form of courage. It requires vulnerability to share mistakes and lessons. It requires patience to guide others who may struggle. And it requires purpose, a willingness to use one's own experiences to make a difference. She realized that the path from pain to purpose comes full circle. We learn from pain, grow with courage, find meaning in helping, and then pass it on so others can do the same. Through her teaching, she discovered a new form of joy. It was quieter than the excitement of success, but deeper and more lasting. She saw the ripple effects of her actions. One student, encouraged by her guidance, began helping others. Another found the courage to speak in public. And slowly, the circle of strength and hope expanded, touching more and more lives. She also learned humility. While she helped others, she did not see herself as above anyone. She was still learning, still growing, still facing challenges. But she understood that her own growth was strengthened by the act of giving. Teaching became a mirror, reflecting her own progress while illuminating the path for others. Her story now had many layers. She was still the girl who had faced pain, taken small steps, and grown courage. But now she was also a mentor, a guide, and a source of hope for others. Her life had transformed from a personal journey of survival into a shared journey of empowerment. And so, as we leave this part of her story, we see that her greatest lessons are no longer just about herself. They are about lifting others, spreading courage, and turning pain into purpose. She has discovered that true power is not what you hold, it is what you give. The next step in her journey will reveal her true inner strength. Through guiding others, she begins to see not only the effect of her actions, but also the depth of her own resilience. She will face challenges that test the heart and mind, yet she will rise even higher, showing that transformation is a continuous journey. Chapter 9. The Girl Who Became Stronger Than Pain. Welcome back, my friend. In the last section, we saw the girl become a guide, teaching others how to turn their pain into power. Now we reach the moment where her journey shows its full meaning. She is no longer the girl who cried in silence, afraid of the world. She is the girl who has transformed her struggles into strength, her tears into wisdom, and her weakness into courage. She walks through the school corridors with a quiet confidence. Students smile and greet her, not because she is perfect, but because she is real. She has faced failure, fear, and rejection, and survived. But more than that, she has grown from every moment of pain. She remembers herself as the lonely, timid child who wished for something better. The contrast is remarkable. The girl who once felt broken now shines with resilience and hope. Her strength is not loud or boastful, it is steady and calm. She knows her worth not because others praise her, but because she has built it from within. Every challenge she faced, every mistake she made, and every fear she confronted has become a stepping stone. Pain no longer controls her life. It has become her teacher, her guide, and her fuel. She looks at the children in her reading club and sees herself in them. She remembers how it felt to be unsure, afraid, and unseen. And she knows that the same path she walked, the path of small steps, courage, purpose, and teaching, can help anyone rise above their struggles. Her story is no longer only hers. It is a map for anyone willing to take the journey. The lessons she learned are simple but powerful. Pain is not a wall, it is a doorway. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is moving forward despite it. Strength is not something we are born with. It is built step by step, choice by choice, and true power grows when shared, not hidden. These lessons shine through her words, her actions, and the life she now leads. Even when she faces challenges now, they no longer overwhelm her. When difficulties appear, she faces them with patience, reflection, and action. She knows that falling does not mean failure, and that each step, no matter how small, brings her closer to her purpose. Her past struggles have given her a unique wisdom, and she carries it with grace and humility. The contrast in her life is clear. She was once the girl who cried in the corner, believing she had no place in the world. Now she is the girl who stands tall, helping, teaching, and inspiring others. Her past pain remains a part of her story, but it no longer defines her. Instead, it strengthens her and guides her forward. And my friend, here is the most important truth. Anyone can walk this path. You, listening right now, can take small steps to turn your own struggles into strength. You can face fear, learn from mistakes, and use your experiences to help yourself and others. The girl's story is not just a tale, it is a roadmap. Her journey shows that transformation is possible for anyone willing to act with patience, courage, and purpose. This is the moment where her story connects directly to you. The girl who overcame tears, fear, and weakness is proof that change is possible. Her journey is a mirror, reflecting the potential that exists in each of us. You may be facing challenges today, feeling alone, or thinking that life is too hard. But the same principles she used, small steps, courage, purpose, and giving, can help you rise as well. She smiles at the children in her care, and her eyes reflect something deeper: hope. She knows that strength grows from struggle, that pain can become power, and that anyone who chooses to walk this path can shine. And in that moment, her journey becomes universal. It is no longer only her story. It can be your story too. So take a deep breath, my friend, and remember this: every small step matters. Every act of courage counts. Every effort to help, learn, and grow builds strength inside you. Pain can be your teacher, fear can be your guide, and setbacks can be stepping stones. Just as the girl transformed her life, you too can rise above challenges, turn struggles into power, and shine in your own way. Chapter 10: Your Pain, Your Power. Welcome back, my friend. We have traveled together through the story of a girl who faced tears, fear, and challenges, but transformed all of it into strength, courage, and purpose. Now, as we close this story, I want to speak directly to you. This is not only her story, it can be your story too. Every struggle you face, every fear you feel, every setback in life can become a step toward your own power. Pain is not the end, it is a beginning. Just like the girl, you may feel lost, weak, or afraid at times. You may feel that learning English or improving yourself is too hard. But each small effort you take is a seed of change. Each sentence you read, each word you speak, each time you listen and practice, you grow stronger. Every mistake is a lesson, every challenge an opportunity. You are building your roots, your courage, and your purpose, just like she did. Contrast the life of staying the same with the life of growth. Staying in fear keeps you small, quiet, and limited. Growth allows you to rise, to speak, to act, and to shine. The girl chose to rise, step by step, learning from pain and sharing her strength. You can make the same choice today. Each effort in learning English is more than practice. It is a way to strengthen your mind, build confidence, and transform challenges into victories. Think about her journey. She began with tears, fear, and doubt. Slowly, she took small steps. She faced her fears, acted with courage, and used her experiences to help others. Her life became larger, fuller, and meaningful. And you can do the same. Your learning, your dedication, and your willingness to try, even when it is difficult, are your path to power. Each word you read, each story you hear, each moment you speak English is a step forward. Remember, growth is not instant. Power is built slowly, day by day, choice by choice. She didn't become strong in one day. You will not either. But with patience, persistence, and courage, you will rise. And when you do, you will see that every struggle, every mistake, and every fear you faced was a teacher guiding you forward. You can turn pain into power, fear into courage, and doubt into confidence. So, my friend, take this story into your heart. Let it remind you that challenges are not walls, they are doors. Let it remind you that learning English, practicing every day, and facing difficulties are all steps on your path to strength. You are capable. You are resilient. You can grow stronger, just like the girl. If this story inspired you, I invite you to take action today. Practice your English. Share your story. Encourage someone else who is struggling. Like this video if it lifted your heart. Comment below with what step you will take next. Subscribe to this channel to continue your journey and share this story with others who need hope. Remember, your pain is not your weakness. Your courage is your power. Every day you try, every word you learn, and every challenge you face is a step toward the life you want. Rise, learn, grow, shine, and know that, just like the girl, you can turn your struggles into strength and your life into a story of hope, courage, and power.